Hey, welcome back to Vox Terra with me, Matt, and me, Rusty. The show's purpose it is to, what, Rusty? Help bring people together to focus on the long-term survival of the species and not keep banging your fists about different hot-button social issues. Yes, that's right, Rusty. And key to that is we want to find common ground. So today we are going to do what I will call a rapid musing. Rapid musing? Why are we calling it that? Well, because there's not really a lot of time in the news cycle for us to do a lot of long musing here. So we are looking at the recent teaming up of Ted Cruz and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who team up to ban lawmakers from lobbying. Oh, that is interesting. I wonder how that could happen. To understand how that could happen, we're going to look at the history of the definitions of conservative, liberal, and socialist, some unexpected commonalities, as well as take a look at Ron Paul libertarianism, Bernie Sanders, some unexpected commonality, and some obvious differences, which is why we put up these League of Conservation Voter websites behind us here, showing Ted Cruz's abysmal environmental voting record. Now, to make it fun, yes, we are going to have Trippy Joey ask a few questions and make a few comments. Well, that does sound fun. That guy's a real trip. He is, Rusty. So let us begin.
Whoa, man, I don't get this, Matt. It says in this article Ted Cruz and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez team up to ban lawmakers from lobbying. Can you make some sense out of this? It's far out. Conservative and socialist, I don't get it.
Sure, Joey, I've got some thoughts on that. So, I used to consider myself a conservative, then maybe more of a liberal or a socialist, and here's how this makes sense. I was sitting in a political science class in undergrad many years ago. The original conservative movement, according to my political science professor all those years ago, was started actually in opposition to the emerging capitalist order, in defense of the royal order or the feudal aristocracy. Whoa, that's something you don't hear too often. So they were conserving the traditional establishment. Now, initially, the term liberal was used for the people defending the emerging capitalist or business class against the royals. Well, that's not how people use it today, is it? Not exactly. The original liberal thinking viewed society as a set of game rules, whereas the original conservative philosophy viewed society as a set of mutual obligations, king to serf, serf to king, whereas the liberal mindset was that people were basically on their own and free to create their own wealth. So those are two different situations. So that was very interesting. And then came along the socialists, who also viewed society as a set of obligations, only they felt that the feudal royal orders were oppressive and the capitalist orders left everyone on their own, basically. So the socialist worldview would be that society is a set of obligations, people to people, rather than royal to serf or that type of thing. So there's a little, in the old times, there was some commonality in thinking. So this political science professor claimed that the original poor relief programs in England were brought about by a coalition of socialists and royalists against the, what were called at that time, liberal thinkers. Whoa, so that's kind of how this, maybe they're coming together again now? Possibly, it's possible. So if we look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she considers herself a democratic socialist, whereas Ted Cruz would consider himself, I suppose, a combination of a small, limited government person combined with a sort of religious underpinning. Maybe in a way almost to a degree, a theocrat, really. And in that regard, you could say that both of them view society as having obligations towards fellow man. Now, there's some big differences, but that's the initial way how I think they could come together. So it doesn't matter if you vote for Ted Cruz or you're voting for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez then? Well, that's the reason why, Rusty, I put up these League of Conservation voter scorecards. We can see here that Ted Cruz has a 14% score for 2018 on voting pro-environment and a 4% lifetime score. Now, contrast that, Alexandria is very new, but you'll notice, that she got the endorsement when she was running for Congress. Oh, it looks like she did. Yes, and they say Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for Congress in New York's 14th District. And let's just read a bit here. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is committed to renewable energy transformation that will spark true economic recovery and protect the planet. We are excited to endorse her campaign and look forward to working with her to fight climate change and protect communities that are most threatened by pollution and the climate crisis. Ron Paul, what about Ron Paul then? Well, Ron Paul is a libertarian. Alexandria is a socialist. Could those two, that's not similar, that's opposite, isn't it? At first look, yes, libertarian would favor limited, tiny government. And then socialists would be like big government, right? Well, not exactly. So here's where they're similar. Both of them look at how the government combined with the corporations are influencing our society. But the difference would be that whereas people like Ron Paul and maybe Ted Cruz believe that if you limit government enough, that corrupting influence will wither away. Whereas a socialist would think you really can't cut it out. We're just up against too much. It's better if the people look at that reality that government and business collaborate, see how it's happening behind the scenes, and try to shape that collaboration for the good of the people. That is how I believe Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez would look at that situation, and many of those who call themselves democratic socialists. So they're both looking at how business works with government, and that can bring some pretty bad results. I don't know about Ted Cruz, though. I'm not sure about that either. But in the case of Ron Paul, yes. Well, how so? Well, Ron Paul, like Alexandria and like Bernie, oppose what they call imperialism. Imperialism? Sure. It's like how President Eisenhower referred to the industrial military complex, where there's a coalition of business interests and military interests, and that could drive forth war efforts when they may be against the public's interest. Oh, well, that's really interesting. So we have the similar situation with the fossil fuel complex and other business interests, and what I call the reckless elements of the business community influencing government policy. Now, Ted Cruz, I believe, if we looked at his campaign donations, would probably be getting quite a bit of donations from groups that I would consider the reckless elements of the business community, like the Koch brothers, possibly, an organization called ALEC, American Legislative Exchange Council.
Hey, wow, man, so it's like they're similar in that they both have political philosophies. Conservatives have a view of like obligations from citizen to citizen, and socialists have a view like that too. But the difference is that based on this environmental scorecard reading, it looks like Ted Cruz is getting a lot more money from the reckless interests of the business community, but he might not really like that.
Yes, I think that makes some sense, Trippy Joey. So the two of them, both being principled, were able to team up to limit the future lobbying in the hopes of having a system that serves the people's needs better.
Wow, well that's wonderful.
And anyway, I hope you thought it was wonderful. And really, that's the most sense I can make out of it on short notice. So until next time, please subscribe. Click the notification button so you know when we upload a new video. And like. And please post your own comments on why you think the two of them might have teamed up, or just your thoughts on conservative versus progressive versus liberal versus socialist, especially if you can find common ground. That's what I'm most interested in on this show. And until next time, what do we say, Rusty? Peace be with you. Yes, peace be with you. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.